the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode 138. I had to take a look there of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Beckson. Today, we're going to be talking with Colin Brownlee. We had him on the podcast before, but we're going to have a bit more of a focus here on the sales and marketing part of owning a business here in Costa Rica. As many of you know, Colin is the owner of Banana Azul Hotel in Playa Negra in the Caribbean, but also KickAss Marketing, which I think I've mentioned before might be the coolest name for a business I've heard in a while. So we're going to be talking to Colin kind of about, how to market properties here in Costa Rica, mistakes that people make, some low-hanging fruit that you can just grab straight away when marketing a property, revenue maximization, and also a little bit about the tech stack to use when running a hospitality business here in Costa Rica and a hotel. So it should be very interesting. You know, this is kind of in my wheelhouse as well as Colin, so I'm sure it'll be a great conversation as always. But also in one of the up-and-coming podcasts, guys, I'm going to do it on my own. I've just spent a huge amount of time and money basically analyzing occupancy, revenue numbers, average daily rates of tons. I think it's about 4,000 vacation rentals here in Costa Rica per area. And then also aligning that with the value of properties as well, just to really take a look and see where there is opportunity here for investing here in Costa Rica. So as many of you know, we help people invest here in Costa Rica. Sometimes we take a data focus on this by really looking at the returns and also seeing where there's opportunity. We actually purchase stuff ourselves, so we actually eat our own soup, I suppose. We've just bought a condo in Tamarindo, which we remodeled. Why did we do that? Because we looked at the rates there and also kind of the gains that we could make on it and decided to make that investment on it there. So we've just remodeled that. I think we bought it for 200, put like 35 into it, and have currently got it for sale for 299,000. So some good returns there. Also, the good thing about that is that, again, if we don't sell it, we can rent it in the meantime as well, because it's 400 meters from the ocean. It's a very, very good property. So I'll be focusing on that in the future. Remember, guys, if any of you do want help investing in Costa Rica, it can be anything from buying a condo, building a vacation rental, a hotel, a commercial project. We can kind of help you have a soft landing and also provide you some data. Again, it's very limited, some of the data that we have here, so we have to go out and create a lot of it ourselves, or it's proprietary data that we have from, again, as you guys know, I was one of the owners of Central America's largest travel company. So always looking at tourism data to just really figure out where the next, real estate location boom is going to be. So you can contact us, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. But let's get straight into the podcast. Good morning, Colin. How are you doing?
Good morning, Richard. Good to see you again.
No, not at all. I appreciate you coming back on the podcast with us. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Well, Colin, the first question I always like to ask everyone, just because, again, I suppose financial markets in the world is in turmoil, which is probably pretty normal for now going forwards, because I think that's the new normal. I mean, I think listeners would like to get an idea kind of in your world of hospitality. I mean, what are you seeing? Is business slowing down? Are you seeing a return to seasonality? I mean, what are you seeing and what do you think you'll see?
Well, during COVID, in my deepest, darkest times, I really thought it was all over.
I was there.
And so we had no idea what it was going to look like, on the other side, and it didn't look good no matter what. There was no sort of little light at the end of the tunnel or anything like that. But you know what? It's so shocking that it came out very strong, very fast, and continues to be so. And again, I am still surprised at this date, but 2019 prior to COVID for us was a record. 2021 was a record. 2022 was a record. And we're talking each of these years of beating the previous year between 10 and 15%. So it's and again, I don't really understand it. I think the main thing is that Costa Rica has really just become really hot post-COVID, and people see this as an ideal place to escape the event that we went through with COVID and everything.
And I mean, how's Q1 2023 for you? How would that compare to 2022?
Ka-ching.
Wow.
It's another record. Yeah, we're again beating all last year by about 10%.
Yeah.
And and the thing is, I don't have any more rooms. I have no more upgrades or anything like that to sell, and we just keep kind of, squeezing more money out of the people that are here, and somehow it just keeps
Well,
working. Again, I don't really understand it.
good for you guys. I mean, I'm starting, I've spoken to quite a few of the hoteliers actually over the past, I would say, month. They've actually reached out to me and been like, Rich, what are you seeing? I think that what they're starting to see is that they're not seeing the craziness of 2022 in the rest of the year. Whether that's people going to book last minute or whether we're going to return to this seasonality that we had pre-COVID, of a really good high season. Quiet was down a little bit over Easter, starts to pick up again, for June, July, midway through August. September and October is, somewhat dead, I would say, 30, 40% occupancy. And then we ramp up for Christmas again. Caribbean's different. You guys are different, right? What's your cycle like on the Caribbean?
Do you know what? The only slow months are as slower, not slow, is May, June, November to December 20th.
Wow.
And all the rest and September, October are approaching high season occupancy and rate, because people finally figured out the Caribbean is the place to be during those months.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, which I think a lot of people don't know, is that like September and October, where it's pouring down everywhere else in Costa Rica, the Caribbean is sunny and beautiful.
Yes, yeah. And the water is very calm.
Yeah.
Which is nice for snorkeling and swimming in the ocean and things like that.
Definitely. Well, I mean, a lot of people, that we speak to are, looking to build or buy a hotel in Costa Rica. I mean, what would be your general advice to them, Colin, having done this, apart from don't do it?
Well, make sure you're very passionate about doing something like that. And my real advice is just know that it's way more than what it looks like on the surface. Okay.
Yep.
And the complexities with marketing, evolving guest expectations, legal requirements, staffing, accounting, taxation have just made it so much more complex than it was 10 years ago. And now you just can't, before you could just open 10 rooms or 15 rooms and you could wing it and you would do it. You would pay your bills and make some money and everything looks great. Those days are totally over. You'll be just totally left in the dust now. And so it's just really talk to somebody who's really seasoned in the business and listen to them and really know what you're getting yourself into and ask yourself, are you really up for that? It's a real job, Well,
I mean, you have to have a passion for this because again, I think every hotelier that I know and everyone in hospitality has a passion for it.
Yeah. Well, Richard, just, full disclosure here, over 20 years ago when I conceived this place, I just really thought we were opening a Key West sort of guest house B&B, right? And I just assumed that, we were going to be lying in hammocks with a cordless phone, answering the phone, and somehow people would just check in and check out, and the rooms would get cleaned, and somebody would do the maintenance.
That's not how it works, Colin?
Have fun, drink beer, pay on the way out, right? And I really thought that's sort of what it was like. I remember my son saying to me, Dad, I didn't know you knew anything about running a hotel. And I said, I don't. How hard could it be, And so here we are later, we have 55 staff, 25 rooms, tour company, restaurant, supermarket, bar, so yeah, there's no line in the beach.
Well, I mean, you've done an amazing job, Colin. I mean, you really have. I mean, Casey and I have been down there, a couple of times, and just every time we come down there, it develops even more. There's no stopping you. But I wanted to kind of just jump, let's think about that. I mean, if you were to go back to the beginning again and you were to tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself something, when you first walked out of the door?
Well, the first thing that I really learned painfully over the first few years was that you have this assumption that everything, which is lose that. Also, that you think what guests want. You don't. Yep. Just to give you an idea, we put hammocks on the beach, and I just thought, oh no, we're not going to do lawn chairs on the beach. That's so suburban and middle class, and we're Puerto Viejo, and we're different and everything. Well, guess what? Hammocks are a nice postcard. and a nice selfie and everything. But they're really not that comfortable, for most people. And getting in and out of them after 40 is not fun either. And we put these chairs on the beach, and guess what? People just love them, and they even love them more when we put cushions on them. And it's like, who would have known, And I thought that we weren't going to have a pool again. I just thought it was too, middle class, Howard Johnson's to have a pool. And we eventually put it in a pool, and guess what? Everyone lived it, even though they don't use it that much. It still completes this vacation, feel. And so these are just some examples of things that I thought I knew, and I don't do that anymore. I really listen to the customers and figure it out what it is they want.
I mean, I think that's important. When I started, as I was in the tourism business for many years, and now I'm kind of more in the hospitality development side, like helping people invest here. Of like, when I started, I kind of have a rough idea of what I was going to do, but I was like under the understanding of my clients would tell me where the business needed to go.
Exactly. And they will. Yeah.
And well, let's talk about. Yeah, they will tell you, which is good. And especially if you ask them, they'll definitely tell you as well.
Well, speaking of which, I do something that's really helpful is when we do a follow-up email and we don't really try and get people to give us a review because, people are really tired of that, and it just all is so contrived. So we do this little follow-up of thank you for staying with us and everything. And we ask people, if they take a moment, if there was one thing that we could have done to make their stay better, what would that be? And we get some really great feedback. And it's very authentic. And they know we're reading it. And you find out all of these little details that you would have never known because you've never slept in the rooms. So you don't know anything about what their experience is like. And you only read the horrible ones on TripAdvisor.
What's been some of the stuff where that you guys have had aha moments where the clients have given you feedback?
Well, like our old days, our laundry used to be close to some of the rooms, and the maids would get to work early, and they wouldn't start cleaning for at least a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. So they would sit there and chit chat and gossip and everything. And people in a couple of the rooms could hear all of this, and they thought they were being but they weren't. And but of course they weren't being bad. They were just coworkers talking to each other. And so just little things like that, and that this bed squeaks, and it's hard to read in this room, because of the lighting, all sorts of little things like that you would have just never known. And most of them are really easy fixes. And some of them are not, so, it was really helpful just doing that.
Awesome. I think sometimes just asking opens the door to so much information, and you can really use that to guide your business and improving it and kind of changing it a little bit. So
also I just didn't want to invite a laundry list. So just
nobody wants that
thing. Some people will give you a laundry list, but it was just like just these little tips, so so it was awesome. Really, really helpful.
Well, let's change gear into KickAss Marketing, which I always say might be one of the best names for a business I've heard in a while. And coming from branding and knowing your customer and marketing, Colin, I'm sure it probably didn't take you that long to find that name. But I mean, what does it do? Because I think this is really a service that people really need to understand if they're going to kind of come into the hospitality world here in Costa Rica.
Right. Okay. So, as you know, my background prior to my life in Costa Rica was marketing and advertising, and I used to do media planning and strategies. And then when the internet came along, I moved from broadcast and print to the internet. And then I've always enjoyed it, doing it as more of a hobby versus, in the corporate world. And so I was able to take these skills to my hotel here in Costa Rica. So, and I continued, and then I just really focused on tourism in Costa Rica. So what at first should say is what we used to do and what we do now. And what we used to do is we used to do people's branding, Google AdWords, social media management, and graphics and things like that. And we had success, and we had good clients, like Adobe Rent-A-Car, Exploradors Rafting, Caribe Shuttle, some other hotels. And so we had some, decent mid-sized clients. And they were all stayed with us, and we had success. But you're only in control of that one piece of it, and you're not in control of what happens when the client contacts, takes the step of making a reservation. And that's where we found a lot of times things just fell apart. And we had no control over it, and it was really hard giving, constructive feedback to people's staff because they're not your staff, and it didn't go over well. And of course, so it caused all sorts of friction between us and especially the staffing amongst the clients. So, what happened was COVID, and COVID that, everything stopped, and we had all these cancellations, like, 70% cancellations, and we owed everybody a whole bunch of money, and we also had we had also people trying to book reservations. So the KickAss staff didn't have much to do, so we put them in charge of handling all of this huge nightmare of reservation management. And they just did it. And it was just amazing how they were able to handle this huge, what I just perceived as this massive nightmare. And then as reservations started to come in, they were just doing this seamless job of taking them. And we come up with this new prepayment package, non-refundable, and great rates that gave us cash flow. And so they were raising us much needed money, handling all the reservations, getting the refunds out and everything. And we were able to just focus on the hotel. So I was like, oh my God, this really works. And we were really seeing it. So, and we decided to continue that model with our hotel, and then we reshaped the marketing company, and now we specialize in small properties of 4 rooms and up, and up to where it works for the client, up to say 25, 35 rooms, and to take care of all their marketing needs. And so I'll just quickly summarize those. So, we do full marketing, which is branding, graphics, website, Google Ads, social media, photography, etc. So all of that. And then reservations management, which includes pre-stay guest communication and management, includes collecting payments, cancellation and date changes, refunds, etc. This is one of the things, just on a note on that, is we would find that so many of our people would not charge the clients and until they got there. And even though it was past the deadline of cancellation, people would cancel, and most of them would just lose the money. And it was so you were just, and you didn't many times have a chance to resell the room, and so they just leave so much money sitting on the table. It's unreal. And so that's all taken care of, because our new model, we don't get paid unless there's a reservation, because it's all on commitment. And so, no reservation, no payment, we don't get paid. And if the reservation cancels, we don't get paid. So, we have one focus, and that's
a win-win.
Yeah. And it's to get you direct reservations, because that's where our fee is higher, and that's what you want. So, and then also, there's OTAs, which for people who don't know, online travel agencies, and the 2 big ones being Booking.com and Expedia. And if you don't manage those, they will eat you alive. And they are not your friend. Okay. So it's there, we use that word frenemies, and I say it very not I say that, so it's really to understand, but you do need them. And that's how a lot of people research their vacations. So you'd be fools not to use them.
Well,
so just to give people, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Expedia and Booking, in my experience, that client is not the best client either, meaning that usually high cancellation, doesn't really read, doesn't spend money on your property. It's not the best client you can get is direct.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, for, lack of a better word, we call them bottom feeders, and they're on the OTAs. Not so much Expedia. Expedia does have a different client, but the Booking.com, those guys are brutal. And because they're just checking boxes, they don't care what the name of your hotel is and everything. And it's just basically price and do you have a swimming pool and that's it. So, just to give people some ideas, OTAs, if you add all up all the costs, it's always the minimum of 20% and can go higher. Okay. So inventory management, who would have thought, well, we don't open up our OTAs until 30 to 60 days in advance.
That's
okay.
smart.
So if you want to pre-book, there's no occupancy on the OTAs because we find that people book on OTAs more last minute. And then people tend to check your website. So, and then we know we're a beach place, so we know we're full on the weekends. So we take out all the weekends. So you can't book our place on the OTAs on the weekends. So again, it forces these people to your websites. And then Christmas, January, February, March, you're going to be, very high occupancy. So we only open those OTAs sometimes even 5 days prior if we're sensing weakness that we want to fill a few rooms. And then we open up the inventory and we're able to always achieve, on average, an occupancy rate of 90% plus all year round. Okay. And our OTA rate is hovering now between 20 and 25%. And an average hotel when we take over is 60%.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of them we've even had as high as 80%. Okay. Which they totally own you then.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you figure out what the difference is that you pay in fees to the OTAs versus, because we usually can get people right away down to about 40%. And from 60 to 40, okay? And then we work to get them lower. Just the savings alone almost usually pays for our fees. Right there with that. So a couple of stats people should know. OTAs have a 40%, Booking.com especially, 40% cancellation rate. So 40% of the reservations you take from Booking.com are no good.
Which you can't resell anyway because they've already probably done it last minute, and then it's a last minute room, so you lost that income.
And they're just sitting there taking your inventory. Okay. It's not like the TV set where they're going to return it and you can resell it, and get, once that room is gone, the day's gone. Okay. So so versus direct is 18% cancellation rate. Okay. And these are statistics. These are not my own. These are statistics that are bona fide. They mirror my own experience. Higher price and longer stays. Direct people easily add 60% to the reservation amount. Okay. They're just bigger spenders and longer stays. They're committed to your property, and they're not booking one night just to see how it goes, which is like what OTAs do. And so it's really, really, OTA management is critical. And then we do, the secret sauce, what nowadays, which very few people use, small hotels, is dynamic pricing, which is just like the airlines. So based on, so before I would always have a mid-season, low season.
And fixed rates, right?
And, I found out that people were willing to pay high season rates almost all year.
Well, Colin, my question is this, though, because are you doing that manually, or do you have a system that does that for you?
Yes, we interface with a third-party system that does a good job, but you still have to
keep an eye on it.
manual because it can get a little crazy, and like anything AI these days, it's not quite, so yes, we do that, but there's OTA website pricing. Like we put our rates 10% lower on our
on direct on your website
versus the OTAs. So we always have the lowest price. And people, do you know that they estimate that 52% of people that go to an OTA that go to the website and check the price on your website?
Oh, I do it constantly. I mean, I'm terrible. I'm like a terrible client. I always end up booking direct anyway, just because I understand the plight of hoteliers and tourists and transport. Like, why am I giving money to Expedia and bookings and making them money and not making the small business owner money? Like, I've been
20%. It's not like a little commission. It's 20%.
Well, I just wonder what's the return of those clients, the repeat clients as well, compared to direct as well. Meaning a direct client probably repeats a lot more in the future when they do come back than one that books through the OTAs.
Right. And the ones that book through the OTAs, we tell them upon checkout, look, and we give them a little thing that says, by the way, 20% plus of your reservation money went to the OTAs, and this is how much you could have saved on your reservation if you book direct. Please book direct next time. And so we really, really educate our clients. So we do just on pricing is the OTA website pricing, packages. Sometimes we do specials for Tico's Nationals, and we have little programs for return guests, and then we have non-refundable rates. And so we do all of this revenue management. It's not just dynamic pricing. There's lots of tools that you can use.
Yeah. I think anyone looking to go into the hospitality industry needs to understand that there are kind of two major parts of hospitality. There's the operation of once the client arrives, and then there's the sales and marketing part from the front of it. And like, you need both parts working, because otherwise the machine doesn't work.
Yeah. And actually, I see it three parts. Okay. I see that you have the website, which is your online store. Well, people are walking in. Think of it as a physical store. People walk in and they're looking around and they want to get information, and you show them nice things and answer questions. And we have all of our clients have live chat on the website, and our customer service people work 7 days a week from 7 to 7, and they answer people's questions and are just ready to secure that reservation. So you have that part, okay? And then you have the facility. Okay. And the facility has got to, come up to what you're promising them, and so that's a lot of work in itself, is just, making sure the facility meets expectations and is constantly being kept up and hopefully improved. And then you have the customer service end of it. So where we found that things were, so all three of those things have to work, and we have all three of those things working, it works. Okay. But if one is broken, it doesn't work. Okay. So we would find with our clients a lot of the time is that the customer service thing was broken. And that was because, and especially now, it was hard to get staff that was really qualified to handle those reservations properly, with language issues, education issues. Also, the staff from the front desk, who's normally in small hotels, the people that look after this, should be busy dealing with clients on site, period. And so once we discovered that, we took that out of the equation, that everything changed. And then you were able to find staff easier, because they didn't have to have as high a bar as somebody you were expecting to also manage your customers online and other tech details, so so that's really important. Those three things have to work.
Well, I mean, you mentioned tech there, because I want to talk, tech stack for a hotel. I think it's very important, anything from your channel manager to your website, your property management system. I mean, what advice would you give anyone looking to implement a system in a hotel? Because everyone's going to have one, that like, should you use, one system that does all? Like, should you separate it? How do you interconnect those things? I mean, what's your advice?
My advice is really, if you can, stay away from one system that does all. And, a perfect example is like Orbe and cloud beds, and
Yep.
It's because what I find is they really don't do anything really that well, or maybe they do one thing really well, but they don't, all the other things they don't do that well. So you take your booking engine, for instance, which is really important, okay, and it has to be really simple and straightforward and everything. And so if it's not up to par, which you wouldn't know if it wasn't or wasn't, you could easily be losing 10 or 15% just on the booking engine, and you wouldn't even know it. Well, what would you do to get 10 or 15% more business, So it's, and then your channel manager, I mean, without disclosing names, one of those is just, all of a sudden a channel management, you find out that, your $200 room is $59 on booking.com.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And of course it's Saturday, when they don't work. Because they're a local company, and nobody works on the weekend, and only us foreign people do work on the weekend. So, and then you got on booking.com, you got these rooms for $59, and you have to, and you don't even know how to shut it down. So.
Well, I mean, what's your go-to for channel manager? I mean, if someone's like, hey, Colin, I'm looking to, but because a lot of people listening to this are looking to basically do small hotels or hotels here in Costa Rica. I mean, what's your go-to?
Yeah, SiteMinder. It's easy to use. It's been around for quite a while. I don't know how many clients it's got, but like 50,000 or something like that. And so if something's wrong with your channel manager, like your pricing or inventory, it's wrong with everybody's. Okay. Yeah. So they are on it so fast that they just so yeah, that's my
They
go-to.
do a great job. They do a great job. I remember meeting I think he's now regional manager, Jason, like years back, when SiteMinder was just small getting started, and then they got a lot of VC money. And, because in the travel company, we actually integrated directly with SiteMinder, and I had to call the CEO up and be like, dude, no one is answering the questions that we have. And then like 2 seconds later, we were connected.
Yeah. No, they've done an amazing job, and you can see they've got a big future ahead of them. Well, they're already doing really well, but they're going to continue to grow in the industry. So and just for a booking engine, we use Simple Booking, and it's funny, the name says Simple Booking, which it's the interface and is really quite attractive, and it looks anything but simple, but is really and we find that it does a really good job of presenting our inventory, and yet at the same time making it very easy for the client to book. And
easy integration with SiteMinder as well.
Yeah, this is another thing. These guys that do the all-in-one, they always try and scare everybody, and they say, "Oh, well, none of it ever works well with each other," and that's a bunch of crap. These things are really designed they have to work with. So you pick a few good tools and that are known to work well together, and you won't have a problem. And also pricing wise, it can cost a little bit more doing separate channel manager, separate PMS, separate booking engine and everything, but it's not that much more. And what you will gain in the way of clients and client management it far exceeds whatever you claim to save or they claim some ease of use and everything. But if you're somebody who just wants to do it all on your own and not be bothered too much with all of that, yeah, maybe a all-in-one solution would be the right thing for you. So I'm not taking it off the table, but just for us, for people where we're just concerned about revenues, no, it's not a solution for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I've had experience with a lot of the stuff that you've talked about there, and SiteMinder is very, very good. I mean, I think the big guys are using TravelClick, but that thing's just so expensive that for small guys does not really work at all. So
again, I hesitate to say this, but I need to be honest. We have a client that used TravelClick. And so when we took them over, they had a contract with TravelClick, and we had to work with that contract and work with them. Well, I was just shocked at how, granted we were a small client, but it was almost $1,500 a month. So it's
expensive.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So I was just shocked at how little support we got. And when I asked them some questions, because I know about Google AdWords and things like that, that they were very vague on the answers and everything. And I just thought, so anyway.
But I think they were first to market. They were kind of first to the market, and the big guys adopted them. And like from there is, if you had no choice, then you had no choice. But now you do.
Yeah. Well, listen to this. So we found out that the last 3 months of their contract, because the client credit card expired that they didn't alert them, the ads were not even running. Okay. 3 months.
Wow.
Okay. And they had no hesitation collecting their fee.
Of course.
Yeah. Their $1,500 client management fee. I was just shocked. And this is the thing. And I just think, wow, look at these people. They have thousands of clients. And this is their commitment to the client, right?
Yeah.
And here we are, that we are just all over this client, and, going through every step, of the reservation, the management, and the payment, and the marketing, and branding, and the graphics, and everything. And these companies just get away with that. And this is why I left marketing, is because that's what I used to see in the industry all the time. I always call it smoke and mirrors. It's just, oh, look over here, and here's a great lunch, and it worked every time, and we don't do that. And so anyway, I really, hesitate when people say they're using these types of things. I'm like, oh, well, okay, good, if it works for you. Yeah. But the thing is, you don't know as a client. You have no idea. You think, oh, well, I got that base covered, right?
Correct.
And so you have no idea how much money is sitting on the table. Okay. Well, so think about it. If your average room revenues are $50,000 a month, right? And you left 20% on the table, which is easy. Okay. That's usually
$10,000.
Yeah. So that's $10,000 a month, right? So that a year is $120,000, right? And 5 years, it's like 750 or whatever it is, 700, I don't know, whatever. It's a lot. And, and also that's usually your gravy, because you built your expenses around your income. And so if your income is, built around, 50,000, and you could have got 60. So that means there's really probably $10,000 worth of profit there. So,
correct.
So I just can't stress this enough for people, is you have no idea how much money is sitting on the table. And even somebody like me, who's been doing this all my life, had this big wake up call after COVID. And it's like, oh my God, we got 20 to 25% more money. Run the number over 10 years.
It's best not to, because it only brings pain, Colin.
Yeah, because our revenues are 100 plus a month, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you take the OTA management fees and all this other stuff, and yeah.
Well, and you're not talking about spending more money. You're just saying you're leaving 20% on the table, which means that falls to the bottom line, meaning 20% profit margin falls to the bottom line. And if you
threw another $500 or $1,000 a month Google ads at it, ka-ching, so.
And that just reminds me, Colin, a lot of people ask me of like, Rich, like I see all these valuations of these hotels. I'm looking to buy this hotel, or we help them, purchase the hotel. And they're like, how did they come up with this valuation for the property? And I'm like, well, it's either a multiple of EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax depreciation and assets. It's either how many keys have you got on a multiple of the keys, or it's just a replacement kind of cost, or a realtor gave them a number because something sold in the area for that amount. Like it's so difficult to get to that value. And like, I understand in like, there are CapEx rates and everything in the rest of the world and their valuations, but here in Costa Rica, there's no MLS, there's no standard for really anything. So it's so difficult. So leaving that 20% on the table, if that fell to the bottom line, typically your multiple that you get in your business, they're going to look at how profitable your business is and how good the reviews are. And typically I've found that hotels that have great profitability and great reviews get a much higher multiple when it comes to selling their business.
Right. Well, I don't know how to value them. As you know, I'm going through the process of my place, and
yep.
I just added up all the assets and threw a comfortable conservative number on for the business and said, that's it. And if anybody wants to pay that, then I'm ready to go. And and I found a buyer. So,
well, and what someone's going to do is going to look at your bottom line and go, how many times is that a multiple of, if you know what I mean, throw some goodwill in there and be like, can I make changes to increase that bottom line that I can pay for this, this purchase price in 6-7 years, maybe less, depending on what it is. But it's a world of gray, if that makes sense. And people keep asking me about it. And I'm like, there is no rhyme or reason to it, guys, sometimes.
Yeah. And, what I've seen during my process of selling my hotel was of looking around is almost no hotel that's listed for sale is profitable. They're all kind of broken properties that really didn't make any money or made very little, and people are just tired of doing it and want to sell it. And so, at me as a potential buyer, I just look at it and it's like, okay, how much is the land worth, and how much is the buildings worth, and how much is it going to cost you to get it up to speed? That's what it's worth. Okay. And there's nothing there for goodwill or anything like that. And that's how I just start by pricing it is what is the land worth? What's the buildings worth? And what's it going to cost you to and what's your upside? What can you expand? So what's your potential upside? So
I think the expansion part is important sometimes, just because again, you'll want to expand at some point, because if you get it working, your limitation is going to be your number of rooms.
Yes, or the quality of your rooms.
Correct.
Okay. So right now, my biggest challenge is people want better rooms than and I. because I'm selling, I'm not willing to invest the money to give them what they want, and I'll leave it for the next person to, so there's a lot of money sitting there on the table right there. So, you can take a place, and if it's a good location and it's got rooms, which is a lot of these places for sale, what's it going to cost you to bring them up to, and then what could you get for them? So,
we're working with a client at the moment. We're just about to cross the finish line on buying their beachfront hotel, which has 8 rooms. It's spectacular. And I'm like, if you don't buy this, I'm going to buy it. The deal is exceptional. And here's me being like, I'm buying it. I just sold the hotel. I don't want to get it. Every time it's this recurring cycle of I'm never going to do it again. And my wife just looks at me and goes, Rich, that one was quicker than last time. That was 30 days,
Wow.
Yeah, at least last time it was 6 months. Now it's you down to 30 days. And it's like a drug that you just can't get off. But it's such a great, you get to see the best of people, Colin. I always say it, you get to see them relax, and amazing people and have amazing experiences. So, Yeah,
95% of our guests are great people. And I feel very fortunate about that. And I realize that, wow, this is, a good business, because, you could be in businesses where you just really don't like your customers. And if that was the case, I would have gone a long time ago. So
awesome. Well, what are some of the easy wins that anyone in the industry can make, today to improve their revenue, Colin? Because again, anyone that owns a hotel, they're always thinking about revenue, because you can cost cut, but getting the revenue side is just so important, because it just screams over everything else.
Yeah. So one of the most important things is on Google AdWords is buy your brand name. Okay. So this is really important. And I'll quickly, because most people don't, because they think it's, why should I? That's my name. Why should I? Well, listen.
You're halfway down the page.
Booking.com is willing to buy your brand name at whatever it costs them, no matter what. And it will cost them more than it would cost you, because of what's called quality score. And why is Booking.com going to do that? Well, not only, remember on the internet, whoever builds the best mousetrap wins. Okay. Booking.com built one of the best mousetraps, so you can't fault them. And how did they get to be so big? It wasn't because it was such a fabulous booking engine. It was on your brand name. Okay. So people that wanted Hotel Banana Azul, which is my brand, they type in Hotel Banana Azul, which is your client. And Booking.com met them right at the front door on the internet and said, oh, hey, we got them. We got the best rates here. We got this, we got that. You know how to use the system. You can trust us and everything right this way. Okay.
Yep.
So your best case scenario is you only lost 20%. Okay. Okay. But no, it gets worse. Okay. So they're into their vortex, right? Well, all of a sudden, not only are they showing your property, but they're showing other properties that might be cheaper or higher rated. Okay. Right along so immediately you have a really good chance of losing that reservation that was your client. When they typed you into the book engine, they were probably
looking for you
with their credit card in hand.
Yep.
And ready to go. Okay. But you just lost them. Okay. So you can lose the whole reservation. Okay. Okay. It doesn't stop there. Okay. Then I don't know if they used to, but they used to do it now, but they sure used to do it. And they got a lot of flack over it, but they used to send people emails before the cancellation rate telling people you can cancel and get a better deal elsewhere. Cancellation with no charge and get a better deal elsewhere.
Wow.
It's just horrible. And there's nothing you can do. You can, scream all you want. It's not going to do anything. Booking.com years ago, their Google ad spend was $3 billion a year. Okay. I'm assuming it's probably up to 4 or 5 now. So it's humongous.
Oh, and I thought we were spending a lot when we were at like 3-4 million,
right. No. It's like, so, that is my number one thing is don't you're letting these people take your customers, and you need to, it's not that difficult to do it. If you were going to do only one thing on Google, and which you have to be careful because if you don't do it right, you can lose a lot of money. But if you do it right, if you're going to do one thing, that's it. The other thing is OTA management is, don't. This is a trap that everybody falls into. Oh, I need to sell those rooms. Well, you go to the OTAs and you just drop your price because it's easy. Okay, right? And so meanwhile, if your room's $100 and then all of a sudden, on the OTA, you say, oh, I just want to fill the rooms. And it's like, so I put it down to 75 because I just want to really and so you lost another 20%. So now your income is $60 a room. Okay. So, and you're training your customers to book, not even go to the website. The best prices are always on the OTA. Okay. So this is what's happening. And also, we even took our cheapest room because we have a couple really cheap rooms that just are all rooms that we never upgraded. We don't even put those on the OTAs. Why? Because we don't want to give people the illusion that that's our price point. Yep. And so they tell you can't do it, but it's just do it. No one says anything. I add 10% always on the OTAs, and it's just forbidden to go lower on the OTAs. So those, couple things, of course, when you get, revenue management and dynamic pricing, and those can get a little bit more tricky, but they're worth it. But for somebody who's not really experienced at it, you can do that. But just the other thing on the OTA thing is just don't release all your inventory. Especially, when you're probably going to be full, block all those things off. Just block them all out. And as you get closer, just look at your occupancy rates and you think, oh, it's not selling quite as fast as I was hoping. Then start releasing that inventory. Yeah. And so, those are some really good tips and strategies. Just a shameless plug here is when we get a client who is interested in, it's a really big commitment to work with us. It's not something you're just signing up for a piece of tech or anything like that. It's a full on relationship. So we have a very careful evaluation about the client, the property, and what
you're going to own their sales and marketing funnel, Colin.
Right, exactly.
Like the whole thing from start to finish. Like it's everything or it's nothing.
Yeah. And we also need to know that they're going to participate in the process, because if they're not, it's not worth it. So, and we don't have any contracts where we sign that you're stuck for a year or anything like that. This works for you or you fire us. That's it. Because, and we feel so confident about what we're doing. We know in 3 to 6 months, you're just going to go, whoa, I wish I'd done that a long time ago. And that's what happens with our clients, right? So we have a very careful vetting process. But we welcome people to go through the vetting process, right? Because even if you decide it's not for you, or we might decide you're not a good fit, we will leave you with concrete advice of what you can do yourself. Okay. And so it's like, well, you can do this yourself. You can do that. Everything we show you, you can do yourself. So I really encourage people to take advantage of this, because this is stuff that's taken me, 18 years to learn. And, and I thought I was pretty smart 18 years ago. And guess what? I'm a lot smarter now.
Well, it's amazing sometimes how success in one industry does not mean success in another, and especially a different country, and industries and also countries, So, I mean, I've said it before, I can count on one hand the marketing gurus I know, Colin, and you are on those hands. And I don't say that lightly because, again, I've seen, the behind the scenes and a lot of, the best performing hotels in Costa Rica, and your numbers are outstanding. So it's not that I'm blowing, smoke up your ass or anything like that. I'm saying this of like, guys, if you really want to increase your revenue numbers, like speak to Colin and his guys, because again, at some point you guys are going to get so busy that you can't take on new clients anyway. So
yes, yeah, we're given all what we do, we can only take on a certain amount of clients, because you're taking care of all of that sales funnel, and it's not automated.
It's intense.
It's intense. We automate where possible, but even that requires human management. And 7 days a week, including Christmas and Easter, and it cannot be left. So.
Well, I mean, I always say, I said when we were in the tourism business of like, humans build a better vacation. Like people will do a better job, at building a vacation. Because I spoke to a guy the other day that's building this thing for AI. And I'm like, dude, you don't realize how many people I've spoken to that are trying to do what it is that you're doing. That like when people have money or are looking on the luxury side or looking to spend money in a foreign country, they want to talk to a human being. They want to feel safe and secure. That like AI, maybe at some point we'll be able to do that. But like, that human interaction is part of our DNA.
Yeah. And, I've been sort of like studying a little bit the AI and chat GPT and things like that. And I just, we're not ready yet. And, we'll continue to watch what happens in that area and let them shake out what works and what doesn't. But I totally agree with you. People didn't come to stay at a hotel, a boutique hotel, to have everything automated. They came to have somebody greet them at the desk and to serve them a drink and for them to ask what they should do, and there's no way that AI is going to replace that.
Definitely.
And just one other real tip that I want to give for people about running a hotel. Because I used to get nervous over the years because constant changes happening in the industry or the country or whatever. And also we were on the Caribbean, so for years we had lots of challenges bringing people here, and I always wondered oh my God, what's going to happen in that. And what I found out and realized is as long as you can continue to have happy guests, you're going to be all right, and what happened after COVID would just prove that, we were in COVID and I was like, thinking that I'm bankrupt and not knowing how I'm going to pay all these refunds and everything. And so we needed some money. And, I went to the banks, and it was so funny because they basically told me, oh, you're in tourism. You know what? You guys are all going to go out of business. So we're not stupid enough to loan you money.
Yep.
That's what they basically told me. And I'm like,
yep.
Thanks. Okay. Glad, so we needed money. And I, reluctantly sent this email out to all of our client base and said, you know what? We're kind of trying to get through COVID, and we're hoping that we're all going to get through this, and you're excited about coming back one day. And if you are, we have this really great deal for you. Okay. But we need you to know, which is something we never did before, which is non-refundable. But if for some reason, health or whatever, you can't make it, it's totally changeable up to 3 years. And if you can't use it, you could sell it or give it to a friend or whatever, or whatever. We had this overwhelming response, and within 30 days had $100,000.
Colin, the best way to raise money, more sales.
Yeah. And so, and I was like, wow. And I talked to some of our regular clients, and I thanked them for it. And they were just like, oh, no, we love your place. And we were so afraid that you might go under and we wouldn't be able to come back, and da-da-da-da. And so we were only too happy. And we knew you were good for it. And if something happened, you closed. It was like,
Yeah.
And and what that came down to is because, we over the years have developed happy, satisfied customers. And so I realized that, if you in the industry, if that's your goal and you're passionate about it, you really can't fail. I'm sure you can't change global events and things like that, but
you just got to surf the wave you're given, dude.
And it's like, who would have ever thought, oh, happy, satisfied customers?
Yeah. Well, Colin, I think you may have the longest podcast yet, but this has been great. This has been not at all. It's been amazing, but information and tidbits here for, I think, people that own boutique properties or in hospitality that are looking to do it. But my last question I'd love to ask everyone, Colin, if you inherited $500,000 and had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you do with it and why?
Well, it's funny because you asked me this question before a couple of times, and and $500,000 down here, years ago used to be a lot of money. It's not anymore. So I hate to break it to anybody listening. So my thing is I'm kind of a longer term thing, and I would just pick a great location that has got a good upside, and there's plenty around Costa Rica, and buy land. Especially if it's something that you could as big as possible, and something that you could subdivide, and just sit on it and wait for the right time and the demand. And also, when you have cash, there's still deals to be had.
There is deals everywhere.
Get out of Dodge, and if you've got cash, you can still get them. So that's my thing.
I like it. Well, Colin, this has been a great podcast. I'll put all of your contact details in the description because I'm sure quite a few people listening will want to contact you, but really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with us.
Okay, Richard, anytime. Thanks again. Okay.
Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Well, there we have it, guys. Colin won the award for the longest podcast so far after 138 episodes here. But I wanted to keep it going just because there was so much valuable information in here that that Colin gave away. And again, I can count on my hands the number of great marketing people that I know. Casey, my business partner, is one, and then the other one, of course, is Colin. So, these are just amazing guys in hospitality that really know what it is that they're doing. And again, I think one of the advantages of working with KickAss and Colin is that, if he doesn't perform, he doesn't get paid, meaning that it's a win-win scenario. It's not that you need to pay me and then I'll do the work. It's like we will work, and if you're successful, then we get paid. So all of Colin's contact details are in the description down below. But I think anybody that would like to chat with us about investing in Costa Rica, I say investing, but it can be, again, purchasing real estate, making sure it's in the right location for you based on your needs, or if it is there is an investment element to it of just getting a real, I would say, no strings attached kind of idea of what the returns could be. I think we've got 19 homes and it's about to become 4 hotels here that we're project managing here, where we've taken the idea all the way through because we can do the whole thing for you. We're even remodeling some places at the moment as well. And I think, it's as I mentioned there with Colin, of like when we started, I really wasn't too sure where this was going to take us, but is when people need help. I've always said I'm a sucker for helping people. And sometimes the guys in the office are like, Rich, what are you doing? But it's just, that's it. We will help people, have a soft landing here in Costa Rica, because a lot of people don't have a soft landing here. So, I asked the question to Eric in my office the other day, who's our head of development and construction. I was like, what percentage of people do you think that when they come and invest here or build in Costa Rica get kind of somewhat misled or even screwed, might be the word? And he was like 30%. I was like, wow, I didn't really think it would be that high. But anyway, we're here to help you guys, kind of guide you. And again, we have a great reputation here. You can contact us, info@investingcostarica.com, info@investingcostarica.com. But until the next podcast, guys, we'll chat to you later. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.